Hi, I'm author Billy J. Miller. Are you loving this special Farm Kids series on the Rural Woman podcast? Read more interviews just like these when you snag my book, Farm Kids, Stories from Our Lives, or my other books. Find them anywhere books are sold or by visiting www.billijmiller.com/in-stores.
Hi, I'm Katelyn Dubin, and this is the Rural Woman Podcast. I'm a first-generation farmer who married into agriculture. Born and raised in a city, I was so unfamiliar with where my food came from, but I was determined to figure it out. Through my journey into agriculture, I saw women who were strong but humble, often taking a back seat. To me, these women were leaders who deserved a seat at the table. I created the Rural Woman Podcast to share the voices of women in an industry whose stories often went untold. The rural entrepreneurs who live and breathe their work, full of grit and pride. We come here to share our stories, to be in community with each other, to be challenged and inspired, but most importantly, to be celebrated and to be heard. We may not all live, farm, ranch, or homestead the same, but we are all connected. We are rural women, and our stories are worthy of being told. Hey everyone, welcome to a special series of the Rural Woman Podcast. When I was brainstorming how I wanted to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the Rural Woman Podcast, I thought it would be really fun to highlight a different age demographic of rural women. So this month, we are featuring some very special young rural women on the show. This series was inspired by a dear friend of mine and a friend of the podcast, Billy J. Miller. Billy is an author and a speaker who has been captivating audiences and readers by telling the stories of farm life since she married a 4th-generation Alberta farmer in 2010. Billy's first appearance on the Rural Woman Podcast was all the way back in the beginning, episode 3, back in 2019, which we have linked in today's show notes. In her 4th book, Celebrating Farm Life, Billy examines what farm life is like through the eyes of children, only not just interviewing today's children. This book tells the stories of farm kids from the 1920s all the way up to 2022. Peppered with hilarity and frank honesty only present-day kids can muster, this book is filled with stories that will enlighten you, warm your heart, and make you laugh out loud. You can find a link to the book Farm Kids, Stories from Our Lives, as well as Billy's other work in today's show notes. Our next guest in the Farm Kids series is Hope Wright. Hope is a 12-year-old farm girl from Rivercourse, Alberta. She is an active member in 4-H and has participated in speech competitions and has had projects in equine and beef. When she's not helping out on the farm, Hope enjoys school sports and U13 hockey. Without further ado, my friends, let's get to this week's episode with Hope. Hope, welcome to the Rural Woman Podcast. How are you today?
Good.
Good. I am so excited to get to chat with you, and I know Billy is equally excited to chat with you.
Absolutely.
And I'm jealous because you two are sitting in the same room even, and I'm all the way down here. So Hope, tell us everything about you. Tell us who you are and where you're from and what your connection to agriculture is.
I'm Hope Wright. I'm 12 years old. I live on a green and cattle farm in Alberta.
That's a good start. We have a lot of questions for you, so we're going to get to know you a lot better and share your story in agriculture. So you're 12 years old. Do you have any siblings?
I have 3 siblings. The oldest is Holly. She's now 19. The second oldest is Hannah. She's 17. Second youngest is Hayden. and he is 15, I'm pretty sure.
And then you. That's a big family, and that's a lot of ages and names to remember. So you did great. Very cute. So, were you born and raised on the farm that you currently live on? Yes. So, can you tell us more about your farm?
We have horses, 16 horses, and we're getting 3 more next month. And then we have 200 cows, around 200 cows. And we have 3 goats, and we used to have sheep, but we sold them.
Very cool. I have goats too. What kind of goats do you have? Ones with 4 legs that look like goats?
Who else lives in your yard?
My grandparents, they live like you can literally just walk over there.
So it is a big family operation there with a lot of animals. What do you do with all of those horses, Hope?
We mostly just ride them. We don't do any like other things, like mostly bear racing and pulls and stuff like that. Mostly cattle herding.
That's very cool. Do you have your own personal horse or do you guys all share them?
Mostly share them, but we do have like our own horses that we get to like ride, but they mostly all just share horses.
Do they all have names?
Yes.
What's your favorite horse's name?
My favorite was Belle, but we had to sell her last 2 months ago. And then it would be probably a 2-year-old Ice or Layla.
Billy's turn to ask a couple questions because if not, I'm just going to pick your brain about all your favorite animals there because you got a lot.
They do have a lot. And I wanted to say there's so many different things you could say about the Wright Ranch, as we like to call it. But I think one of the biggest jobs of their horses is to make your friends jealous, don't you think? Because like she's got some friends like my daughter, Madeline. And every time she goes and has a play date or goes to a birthday party to Hopies, we deal with Madeline coming home and say, why don't we have horses? I want a horse so bad, Mom and Dad. I want a horse so bad. So yeah, I think that's the biggest job of the right horses is to make all the non-horse friends jealous, hey?
I'm jealous all the way down here.
Yeah. So I will ask you, Hope, a couple of questions that, as you know, I wrote, and her mom also was in my second book, Farm Wives 2. So it's kind of a cool connection, I think, to have these next generations show up. So I love that. And Hope was a lot younger in that picture, which is, so it's really cool to see her now as she's older. But tell me the coolest thing about your mom or the best thing about your mom. Tell us about your mom.
I feel the best thing about my mom is how she has this online program with this guy named Doug, and like he's helped her come a long way. Like she can make her horse do so much more than she has. And I feel like before my mom got that online trainer, we were going to this person named Connie, and Connie was not as good as my mom now. That's nice.
That's right, too. Your mom has shown a lot of those videos online of her doing these amazing, like, trust exercises and everything. Like, I know nothing about horses, which explains why our daughter doesn't have a horse. But yeah, doing a lot of these really amazing things with her horse, isn't it? And the animal just completely trusts her. And yeah, it's really cool to watch that. And what else does your mom do for a job besides farm and ranch?
Besides farm and ranch, she's a nurse, and she goes to, I think, 2 or 3, I can't remember, different hospitals. She teaches students to be just to be like a nurse like her.
Very cool. So it sounds like your mom, from what you're telling me through her learning more about horses and teaching students, she probably has a lot of patience and she's pretty flexible, hey?
Yeah, she finds her way around.
She finds her way around.
Yeah.
That's awesome. She sounds like a busy lady.
And 4 kids. So it's amazing, isn't it?
Exactly. Absolutely. So cool.
So tell us about your dad named Derek, or as we call him, Dewey. Hey?
Yeah. Well, sometimes he's like a pretty good hockey player. So sometimes we call him Doodard. And then he's definitely like really helpful on the farm. He definitely gets mad a lot when the cows don't do what they're supposed to, but like I honestly wouldn't be able to do any of that. Like he was doing stuff that I couldn't when he was my age.
For sure. So I want to expand on this question. Tell me the best things about your grandparents.
That's a good question.
My grandpa, he's like always out there. Like we'll be we'll be out there ready to fill the pails, and then we look and they're already done, already fed, everything's all done. And then my grandma, she's like always helping, like if there's a sick calf or something, she knows exactly what to do. Like sometimes she'll let us come into our house and she'll have some like hot chocolate or cake or something like that after chores.
That sounds awesome.
And Katelyn, her grandma was in my first Farm Wives book. So how great is this? This is the 3rd generation. Yay!
This is amazing. This is so good. So Hope, you know that Billy didn't grow up on a farm, much like you and much like her daughters. I also didn't grow up on a farm. So I'm from the city and I married a farmer and moved to the farm and learned all of the farming things. So to hear the special family connection that you all have to your farm and being so close to one another, that's a pretty special thing, in case you weren't aware.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
So going to school then and thinking of your friends, are most of your friends from farms or ranches or farming families, or do you have a lot of friends that you go to school or play hockey with that aren't from farms?
Hockey wise, I like the whole team last year was completely city kids. And then at school, it's pretty much all farm kids except one kid.
So I'm curious then, with your hockey friends, have you had them out to the farm to see your cows and horses?
I've only had one of my friends. Her name's Taylor. The rest haven't been out to the farm at all.
So judging from Taylor's experience out on your farm, do you think her childhood's a little bit different than yours?
I'd say so. She's more like into the skincare and all Starbucks and all that than me.
That is so great.
Hey, those friends are good to have too. You know, they'll come in handy.
For sure. That is for sure.
Very cool.
That could lead us into one of the other questions I asked in my book, which was, what's a typical day like for you when you get home from school, Hope?
A typical day is just mostly I come home, I eat, and then my mom's like coming in, making me like coming in and saying I gotta get out ride my horse or something like that, sort cows or something.
Do you have chores?
Mostly like on the weekends, I'm always like doing chores in the morning. But if it's a school day, I don't do chores at all.
Kind of busy with school life, hey? What are your chores on the weekends?
We just get up, we don't eat, we just go out and first we go over to the steer pen and we grab the pails, and then it depends how late or early my dad is. If he's early, then we got to go over to the bale yard and open gates for him. If he's like late out, then we can fill pails, go feed steers, little horses, goats, all that, and then go open gates for him.
That sounds busy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of things to have to do.
Yeah.
Are there any chores that you like more than others?
I think I like feeding the little horses more than the goats and opening gates and steers.
What chore do you really not like to do?
There's kind of two that I don't really like. I don't really like opening gates because, like, especially on the cold days, because you just got to stand there. And then I also don't like feeding the goats because you got to give them hay, water, and oats. And it's just really hard because the water's like a really long ways away. And you got like...
So you're hauling it?
Yeah.
They're very high maintenance, I can assure you. They're right outside my office here. And they're having a hissy fit. I can hear them right now.
They're probably happy you're home.
They probably are, yeah. But they're probably also wondering where my treats are for for them.
So, Katelyn, I had another question I thought of that would be a shame if we didn't ask all these farm kids. And I feel bad I missed it in the last interview, but I love to hear funny stories. One of my favorite parts of my Farm Wives 2 book was when I asked, just tell me a funny story from your farm, because all these farms are so different and varied, and the funny stories that come out of them are amazing. So, Hope, can you tell us just any funny story that has happened on your farm? I'd love to hear.
This is a story that my dad likes to tell. So basically, my dad, he hired 2 hired men, and they were pretty good, but not really around cows. They didn't really know exactly what to do. So my dad didn't really know that. So he took them out doing the tagging. And my dad, there was this really like mean cow, really protective of her baby. And my dad grabbed her leg, like the calf's leg, and this cow was like about to run him. So this hired man decides to pull a very dumb move, and he jumps in front of the cow. And this is a cow that won't stop. This is a cow that'll just keep going. And this cow just kept going, mowed him over. And my dad was like, I'm done. So I let go of the calf, and he got sent to the hospital. We were very scared that we were going to get sued, but we didn't. So we're good. But yeah, we fired that other guy, and we're done with that.
Uh-oh.
Experience working with those cows, don't you?
Yeah.
You really do.
Right? And I'm sure your mom or some of her colleagues were there to fix him right up. And I bet you know what? He probably is never going to stand in front of a charging cow again. I think that was a learning experience.
Right?
Oh, no.
Yeah, you don't stand in
Yeah.
front of a new mom. That's
She was
right.
like a heifer or something like that.
Always a heifer. Always.
That should be a t-shirt. It's always the heifer. Always the heifer. Meals in the field, combine rides with Granddad, picking fresh berries out of the garden, and building forts in the bales. Hi, I'm author and speaker Billy J. Miller. In my 4th book, Celebrating Farm Life, I examined what farm life is like through the eyes of children. Only not just interviewing today's children. Farm Kids Stories from Our Lives explores what it looked like to be a farm kid through the ages. Starting with my husband's 100-year-old grandmother, I asked her what her days looked like when she came home from school, her memories of her mom, and what she did most on weekends. Peppered with the hilarity and plain-spoken honesty only present-day kids can master, this latest book is filled with stories that will crack you up, warm your heart, and make you laugh out loud. After the heaviness of the pandemic, I was sure to include lots of humor from present-day kids, but then I also knew I had to include the wisdom that only those in the golden years can impart. I knew these questions deserved to be a permanent place in a book because I've always believed in the adage, when an elder dies, a library burns to the ground. Whether you still reminisce from your own childhood on a farm, or whether you just want to learn what it's all about, snag Farm Kids, Stories from Our Lives, my 4th book, by visiting my website, www.billyjmiller.com, or search Billy J. Miller anywhere books are sold.
So, Hope, we talked a little bit about one of your hobbies off of the farm, and that's hockey. When did you start playing hockey?
I think I've played hockey my whole life. I don't know when I started, but basically I've been playing hockey my whole life, and I've enjoyed it my whole life. I don't know. And then I started with boys, but last year I was going to move to girls hockey, but the PV team didn't have enough players, so I stayed on their team, and I just didn't really enjoy it with boys, so I moved to a girls team, and I enjoyed it so much more this year.
Do your siblings play hockey as well?
Yes. Holly, she played last year, but she couldn't this year because she's too old. Unless she wants to play a more like older, more advanced team, then she would have to, then she could move on, but I don't think she wants to do that.
Her oldest sister moved off on to college this year. So, yeah.
What's your favorite thing about hockey?
I don't know. I like watching, like when I watch hockey, I like watching the more advanced hockey because there's more hits. But when I'm playing, I think I like defense more, so it's harder to get goals, but I like scoring goals. Yeah, stuff like that. I don't know.
Very cool. Who's your favorite hockey team?
Flames? Oh, come on. Oh, come on.
Flames.
Not the Flames?
I think the Oilers, and after that it'd be Seattle.
Very cool.
You know, another thing, the Wrights are big. They're a big 4-H family as well. All the kids are awesome in 4-H. They all have steer projects, maybe some other equine projects as well. And they're deadly at speeches, which I'm sure you can imagine. So,
Very cool. Hope, I've always said this as long as I've been in agriculture, which if we're talking years wise, you've been in agriculture more than I have been in agriculture, Hope. But I always wished, she's like, that's a flex for you, Hope. But I've always said that I was so jealous to hear about 4-H and the kids who got to be in 4-H because it sounds like such an amazing program and an amazing opportunity to teach you so many skills that I wish I was in 4-H. But I want to be like, I don't want to be a leader or anything. I just want to be in 4-H so I can have all of the animals and learn from all of all of you in 4-H.
I agree. Madeline, our oldest, is in her 3rd year this year. And I always say I'm waiting for mom 4-H. One, because I mean, how great to make the money when they sell their project at the end of a hardworking season. But also, I've often told Madeline in the very beginning, you know, she got really nervous about the speeches, right? And I think a lot of the younger kids do get nervous about speeches, but I always tell them, I got thrown into public speaking when I wrote books. And it was never kind of in my goal list, you know, to have to go up and do public speaking. But I said the fact that you guys learn that skill at such a young age, you will take it into your life countless times, job interviews, asking for a raise. Any time that you have the ability to do an elevator pitch, or, you know, it's just such an important skill to have. And I'm asked frequently to judge the speeches, and I'm always blown away at these amazing kids who your brain wants to tell you they're far too young to be as good as they are, but it's just such an amazing program. I cannot rave about it enough. And yeah, I wish I knew about it when I was young too, right? But so it makes me really, really proud of these kids that they do so well.
Yeah. Hope, what's been one of your favorite 4-H projects that you've worked on?
In equine, I think it'd be my horse Layla. That would be one of them. And then I've also liked Belle. And then in beef, it'd be, I don't know, I had this, like when I was younger, I had this little calf, and his name was Gus Gus, but he liked to kick people, so.
He was a little spicy.
You get attached to them?
Yeah, I get attached to the little calves, but no, not often.
Yeah, because you learn, I think after the first couple of years, you probably figure out that the less, you know, you care for them in a way that you, like I tell my daughter, you give them the best, your job is to give them the best life as possible, right? And you guys are all really good at that. So
I'll share a story with you, Hope, that I guess I kind of had my own personal 4-H project that was not attached to 4-H in any way, shape, or form. But I brought a bottle calf home from an auction because I have a driver's license and my own money, so I can go and bring home things. Best part about being an adult on the farm. But I brought home a bottle calf and I raised her for the spring and summer, and I sold her in the fall. And I have to tell you, her name was Taco, and she was the best little heifer calf. But when I sold her, I came home and I cried and I cried. Just like the really little kids at 4-H, but I was a grown adult. So like Billy said, you give them the best possible life you can up until the point where they go on to their next phase in their journey, whatever it is. But I don't know, those baby calves, they're pretty special.
That's for sure. So have you put any thought into, I don't know, I always think about this, Katelyn, too, because something we talked about is I feel like you farm kids are just given such an interesting and varied childhood. You get to learn so many cool and different things. You get to learn a bit about running a business. You get to learn about the life cycle of animals, calves being born to the point where you sell your cows. And I feel like farm kids get such a great education on the farm. So have you started putting any thought into what it is you might like to be when you grow up?
I've definitely thought about being a teacher because I really like teaching little kids and stuff. I think I'd be a grade 3 or 4 teacher. And then I don't want to be a teacher my whole life. I also want to be in the ranch business.
Beautiful mix. That would be great.
Hope, I'm curious because you have older siblings, and 2 of which are your older sisters and then your older brother. I'm curious if you've noticed, and this goes for you too, do your chores vary between your sisters and your brother?
Sometimes, mostly we just it's basically mostly who's home. Yeah, if Holly, Hannah, and Hayden are home, then they would just go do chores. But if me, Hannah, and Hayden were home, then we'd go do chores and Holly would stay in the house or something.
Right. So it doesn't matter if it's your brother or your sisters, right? Work just has to get done.
Chores, they're chores, and there's not necessarily girl chores or boy chores. It's just get her done, right?
Very cool. So growing up in your farm family, it sounds like there's a lot of strong women on that operation. I'm curious to know, what would you have to say to somebody who told you that you couldn't do something because you were a girl? What would your response be to them?
I feel like I'd be really not feeling good about that, but I'd also say I'd mostly just say I could and prove them wrong. That's all I could do.
And I look at you, Hope, and I see, even the things that you like doing. You love hockey, and to be able to play hockey and to do that sport. There's advancements in women's hockey now more than ever, but back when I was a kid, I don't think we had girls' hockey teams. We had to play with the boys until we were of a certain age, then we weren't allowed to play anymore. So I think by you doing whatever it is that you want to do, no matter if you're a boy or a girl, I think it's pretty special, and it's pretty neat that you're able to kind of stand up on your own and do all of these incredible things on and off of the ranch.
That's right. Hey,
Yeah.
I know something that would often be said when we had Madeline, and Madeline and you were born right around the same time, was like, Katelyn, we talked about before how people would say to Dean or I, oh, now you just need to have a boy. You need to have a boy to take over that farm. You need to have a boy. But what do you think about that? A girl could take over a farm, couldn't they?
Yeah, I feel like anyone could take over a farm.
I agree with you.
We can do anything we want.
That's right. Hey? You have a pretty darn good example, don't you? Because your mom's a fantastic businesswoman, isn't she?
Very cool. Hope, what are you looking forward to the most for your summer holidays?
I'm mostly looking forward to we are getting new foals. So I'm mostly looking forward to training those guys, and we might get some more cattle or something like that. So that's definitely going to be more fun, not depending on it. In the summer, we are going to be done probably calving, so that's going to be a relief.
Do you go to the lake?
Yeah, we go to the lake with Teasdale's and sometimes Willis's and then sometimes Schneider's, but not all the time. It's mostly depending who can be there, who can't, and who wants to be there and who doesn't.
Can I come? I want to be at the lake. As a Southern Alberta grain farmer, I would love to be at a lake in the summer.
So even though you have animals, you can take a break and get some lake time too, hey?
Yeah, so important. So important. I think that's all the questions I have for Hope.
I think me too. I knew she'd be a great interview.
You are amazing. Thanks, girlfriend. That was great.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Rural Woman Podcast. The Rural Woman Podcast is more than just a podcast. We are a community. A huge thank you to the Rural Woman Podcast team, audio editor Max Hofer, and admin support from Kim & Co. Online. A special thanks to our Patreon executive producers, Sarah Riedner from Happiness by the Acre and Carrie Munven from Blaystone Farms. To learn how you can become a Patreon executive producer or other ways to financially support the show, head on over to wildrosefarmer.com to learn more. Be sure to hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to the podcast to get the latest episodes directly on your playlist. And if you are loving the show, please be sure to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other platform that accepts ratings and reviews. You can connect with us on social media at The Rural Woman Podcast and with me at Wild Rose Farmer. One of the best ways you can support the show is by sharing it. Send this episode to a friend or share on your social media. Let's strengthen and amplify the voices of women in agriculture together. Until next time, my friend, keep sharing your story.
Hi, I'm Billy J. Miller. I hope you have loved this special series on the Rural Woman Podcast. It has been such a delight interviewing these farm kids with Katelyn Dubin as a part of this Farm Kids series. If you love what you heard, please visit my website, billyjmiller.com. You can buy Farm Kids stories from our lives anywhere you buy your books, or you could visit my website, clicking the shop tab where you'll find that one as well as my other books.